How's everyone doing? It's Mask here. Now, I'm super excited to share with you today. A good friend of mine, Peppy, has been kind enough to let me use his footage of clearing the Sid Advent dungeon and share it with you guys and sort of walk you through the boss mechanics, the strategies to beat the dungeons, and really just take a good look at it, because this is by far the hardest Advent dungeon we have in this event, in this game so far. Sinclair and Decane are an absolute joke compared to Sid. I'm not gonna talk too much about what's in the dungeon, because we're gonna go through that and I'm gonna walk you through it. But yeah, definitely go check out Peppy live on Twitch. He's been clearing Sid daily. Sometimes it takes him 4, 5, 6 tries. Like, it's really hard, but it's really cool to see too. I'm gonna make sure to leave a link to his Twitch in the description down below, so definitely check that out, guys. But yeah, honestly, this video is gonna be all about the Sid Advent dungeon, the boss mechanics, the mechanics of every single wave, which you have to look out for, and what you gotta do to beat it. I know a lot of us are gonna be pretty far away from being able to clear this, but now they're getting into like week 2, week 3, you'd be surprised. A lot of people are starting to get the units needed to be able to clear these SSR Advent dungeons. And of course, you need these SSR Advents to be able to get your 4th and 5th, or your 5th and 6th purple stars on any SSR units. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy this. I'm really excited to share, to show off the Sid dungeon being completed. But before I jump in, because I don't think I've shown this anywhere else, a quick summary of the special parts of the Sid dungeon. For bringing Leafa along in a party, Leafa's attack is buffed by 100%. So she becomes one of the best nukers for this dungeon. And she's a fire unit, and Sid's a grass unit, so that's a huge advantage as well. If you bring Rue along, all recovery for your entire team in the dungeon is increased by 100%. So Rue doubles any healing you do. All passive, healing from passives, healing from recovery, HP recovery from your ruins, and of course, healing from skills like Rue herself. And then of course, Surdik, another fire unit doing bonus damage to Sid just from being fire alone, he decreases all ally skill cooldowns by 1, just for having him in your party. So obviously it's going to be hugely advantageous to bring along Surdik, Rue, and Leafa. But I think in these videos, we only have, or Peppy, I should say, only has Rue and Leafa built. He didn't have Surdik yet, so he manages to do it with just Rue and Leafa, which is great. But I hope you guys enjoy it. Sit back, relax, and let's check out the Sid Advent dungeon together.
Be careful not to let darkness consume you. Oh, Sid. Now, this first floor is a little tricky. These 3 spiders here, all 3 of them basically have Esna's passive, and they're able to put the mental bind. I believe it's called. They put the mental bind on you, and if your character that has that debuff attacks, or uses a skill, they lose half their HP. Now, this is going to be a debuff you see standardly throughout this dungeon. And it's definitely something that makes it exceptionally harder than Sinclair or Decane. This dungeon is easily 3 or 4 times harder than Sinclair or Decane was. So if we look on Electra right now, Electra now has the debuff. Can no longer, and then counter attacks can be deadly in this dungeon. If Electra, for example, right now counterattacks, which surprisingly so, pretty common Electra builds involve a ton of counterattack. So you almost have to have customly made units for Sid's dungeon. You want to have literally 0 counterattack. Counterattacking, Electra was just lucky that the debuff had gotten off before that counterattack there. That would have cost her half her health bar. Leafa coming in with the big hits, able to clear the first room. Now, the mechanics in the second room, you have 2 more spiders, all they really are is a beefy unit, once again, that's putting that debuff on, that if your character counterattacks, attacks, or uses a skill, they lose half their health bar. We see that from Esna's ult. That's where we've seen it before. Now, the snake in the middle, though, that's where this floor gets interesting. The snake in the middle, every time you hit the snake, it gets an attack buff. And so right now you can see on the second blink of skills here, it's got 3 attack buffs on it. If it gets to 6, when it gets to 6 attack buffs, it evolves into a giant snake. And then all of its attacks crit. So it just becomes, it basically enrages. And it becomes crazy strong. And you really got to be able to burst it down from that point, because you can't survive too long after it's evolved. So you also want to budget your attacks. You only really want to attack this snake with skills that are actually going to do a bunch of damage. Now you can see Electra just died in one round because Electra got the debuff and then counterattacked, and that cost her 50% of her health bar. We're running Leafa and Rue in this dungeon because I mean, for starters, they counter a lot of the being fire units. They do well against a lot of the grass units, but also we actually receive a buff in the dungeon for running Rue and Leafa. I will have to just I'll make sure I'll have summarized that at the beginning of the video with you guys when we're looking at the dungeon. What exactly those buffs were. This second stage of this dungeon is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest part. Electra kills herself with the counterattack. Rue with the counterattack, and all 3 people. I mean, Karen was able to remove a debuff there, so she can actually do something. But there it is. The debuff is once again on all 3 of our units. Don't let the darkness devour you. Oh, Sid, great advice. Alright, so here we are on the first stage. There's just 3 mini spider bosses to fight. I say that pretty much call them a boss at this point. Now, these are just 3 standard units, aside from the fact that, well, they apply a debuff to you called Darkness Devour. Now, this debuff works exactly how Esna's Mental Seal does. If any of your units attack, counterattack, or use any skills, they lose half their health bar. I think that may even be a buff from Esna's Mental Seal, but it might not. It probably does the exact same thing. I haven't unlocked Esna yet, personally, so I haven't have a whole lot of experience with that skill. Now, this room is literally just a tank and spank, but you have to be extremely careful and not use skills or attack when you have the Darkness Devour debuff. Keep sneaking in the damage here. Now we have stability is always just, we want to get through this. The cooldowns, keep them up best we can because the second stage we will need the cooldowns. So far, nobody has the Darkness Devour debuff, so we're able to freely attack. The spiders only seem to apply it when they shoot 2 webs from themselves, similar to how Mary's auto attack looks. Boom. Oh, no, right here. There it is. Darkness Devour. A 2-turn, and you just saw it. Because the Electra counterattacked there, she lost half her health. That skill just hit her for like about 7k. So far, we've been pretty lucky on this first stage, though. We haven't actually gotten too many of the Darkness Devour debuffs. So we've been able to keep the DPS up and progress through it easier. One of the downfalls of Electra in this dungeon, although she does such a great job at protecting our units, is you often build her with counterattack in mind. You almost need to effectively farm Sid, this Sid dungeon, you almost want next to no counterattack on your units. There goes Seiya in with that counterattack, and now all of a sudden she's at 1/3 HP. And it's so easy for you to get bursted and die in a matter of one turn just because of that debuff. Rue's going to be able to remove the debuff off both Seiya and Electra with her second skill, giving them a little heal on the side as well. And then a great thing to do now is we're going to go ahead and defend and just get all of our cooldowns back and be perfectly ready for the next wave. So we've got 2 turns left on Karen's skill 3. Rue with the multi-attack. And say, there we go. So, ready to go now. Opening up stage 2. Now, this stage, we see 2 more spiders. Same thing. They're quite simple. So this second stage, we simply have 2 spiders that we saw in the first stage, and they're exactly the same as they were. They apply the Darkness Devours debuff. As you see, we now have it on Electra. Now the difference is there's this snake in the middle of the room. Now this snake also applies the Darkness Devours debuff fairly often, but the thing with it is every time you attack the snake, it gets an attack buff, and that attack buff now it's stacked to 2. You can see it. It's the last attack buff on there, and that was a huge crit we just hit the snake with too. That makes this part so much easier, because every single time you attack the snake and that attack buff keeps going and going, when it gets to 6 stacks, the snake evolves into a giant snake, and then every single one of its attacks crit. So that becomes insane, and it becomes very hard to stay alive versus the snake once it evolves, especially because your team is constantly getting Darkness Devours put on it. As you can see, our Seiya has already fallen. Every time that Darkness Devour hits someone on your team and they counterattack, it just makes it extremely hard. We might actually be able to get through this stage though without popping the snake's... We killed the snake before it got to 6 stacks, which means it didn't actually get to evolve into the giant snake and start going crazy on us. So that's a huge plus for this run. Now we just want to focus down one of these spiders as fast as possible, and then cooldown manage the team and get ready for the last stage. Well, there goes the counterattack on Electra. You can see she's already dropped straight to half. Seiya has Darkness Devour on her again, but Rue is going to be able to take care of it off both of them. There we go, spider down. Now it's just cooldown management. We want to make sure we have all of our cooldowns going into the next stage. And there's Darkness Devours, making it onto Seiya. Electra had it cleansed off of her. And Seiya is now good as well. Karen is fantastic to have in this for that reason. Removing debuffs from your team. Karen and Rue, essential units, because otherwise you just wouldn't even be able to use your skills. And at this point we have 2 turns left on Seiya and Rue's skill 3. Darkness Devour hitting Electra again, and she counterattacks. She is so suicidal in this run. Leafa coming in, finishing off round 2. Fading Wind in Fog boss, Sid. No, I can't see the light! And the darkness devours Sid. Now, in this boss fight, Sid is devoured by darkness, although he warns us at the beginning of the dungeon, don't let the darkness devour you. So this is a pretty simple tank and spank. Just burn through the 333k HP as quick as you can. Keep your team alive and respect. As you can see, Sid just applied Darkness Devours to 4 of our 5 units. So that is crazy. Hopefully nobody counterattacks. And you just gotta, if you have Darkness Devour on one of your units, unless it's absolutely necessary for you to use a skill that turn, just defend. So we're able to use Rue and cleanse off all of the Darkness Devours. Leafa just had to pass her turn, and hers was over. So we survived that AoE, but that's going to be where this boss really becomes a pain. It has an AoE skill that applies Darkness Devours that hits every single member of your team. Karen's been able to bring us right back to full life, and we can continue to take pot shots at this boss, down to 260k. Seiya, pillow fight. There's some poison coming in here and there. I mean, the poison's such a minimal part compared to Darkness Devour. You hardly notice it. But Karen also does a fantastic job at keeping our team cleansed. Obviously, poison preventing you from being able to heal your units. If there is a unit with poison on it, try to take note of that as well. Rue, with the counterattack, luckily did not receive the Darkness Devour's debuff, so did not have to give up half of her health bar. But I have to say, this boss fight is so much harder than Sinclair and Decane. It's actually insane. Seiya coming in with a 20k crits. Not messing around. Now that is a 6 purple starred max skilled Seiya. You do not mess around with her. Leafa carrying her own weight with the 22k crits and the multi-strike. I mean, even that being said, like this boss seems okay, but if you don't have a team full of strong cleansers, all of a sudden this boss becomes way harder too. If he Darkness Devours your entire team, you basically have to sit there and defend and do nothing. Having Karen, and Rue both strong enough to be able to hold their own in this dungeon is one of the only reasons this part of the boss is even possible. And with only 49k left, if you're starting to think right now, this seems just a little bit too easy, you're probably right. Leafa giving out the DPS buffs. Damage, crit damage, you name it. She buffs you. Electra will take us down to 1k HP on Boss Sid and Karen. So there, Boss Sid stuck at 1. Now the darkness leaves Sid. And you now see the darkness retake the form beside Sid. And Sid actually just declares, I'll help you. So now, the main thing we have to focus on is the first Darkness Reincarnation, which is on the left here that we're targeting. We have to totally focus this and kill it as quickly as possible, as it's going to continue to summon copies of itself, and this just gets harder and harder. Karen. We have Rue with her revive available, which is great. And seeing the Darkness Devours, Leafa going in with the Darkness Devours. Double hit though. That cost us Leafa's entire health bar. Seiya down. Karen's going to make sure everyone's looking nice and healthy. Rue brings back Seiya. No problem. Now, continuing to focus down this left... This one and only, the very first dark version of Sid to have appeared. Everyone else, I mean, you can just let them get dealt with counterattacks, multi-attacks, and AoE skills, but we gotta continue to focus down the far left Dark Sid. Now, the buff that you do see on that dark version of Sid, the first buff with the infinity symbol and sort of the dark half claw, that buff makes Sid there immune to all debuffs. So he can't be taunted, can't be defense broken, can't be attack broken. So that also makes it a lot harder to deal with it. And we're forced to defend because of... forced to defend with Rue because she has Darkness Devour's on her. So does Leafa here. This is suicide if she uses any skills. We're going to have to defend with Leafa as well. Darkness Devour is the debuff that you see that just sort of looks like a brain and a head. And Darkness Devour hits so many more members. It's now on Rue. It's on Electra. It's on Leafa. All three of those units totally useless this turn. Seiya coming in with a weak 9k. Come on. Electra falls. Seiya's being brought down to 1/3 HP. And there's Darkness Devours, which is currently on Ruby. Leafa has gotten her Enrage because there's only 3 units left alive. Super crit! Super crit! And that clears it! Leafa manages to land the super crit after getting enraged because there was only 3 members of our party left. And then Karen gives her the extra buff and comes in and hits for what looked like almost 110k or more to finish the boss out. So, alright, back into the first stage. We got the 3 big spiders up. These are just 3 beefy tank and spank mobs. Watch out for their poison. And the big thing for them, though, is they can apply basically as the debuff that Esna's ultimate applies. It's called Darkness Devours in here. And basically, if your unit counterattacks, attacks, or uses any skills while it has that debuff, it will lose 50% of its attack. It's Mental Seal from Esna's ultimate. And here in this dungeon, it's called Darkness Devour. Now, the worst thing that happens is your unit the spiders hit one of your heroes. They get the Darkness Devour debuff, and then they go ahead and counterattack. And in a super rare occasion, they counterattack multi-strike, damaging themselves twice. And if they don't receive any kind of recovery at all in between those attacks, they one-shot themselves. Alright, now we have it down to 1 spider. We're just gonna take it easy for a little bit. Make sure everyone has everyone has all of their skills off cooldown. Now, actually, it looks like we're doing pretty good. Seiya had her ultimate off cooldown. We can go into the second stage. Now, in the second stage, we got 2 more of the big spiders back. They're going to continue to apply Darkness Devour, and it'll really slow down your ability to do damage on this stage. Now, the only thing different here is the snake you see in the center. Now this snake also applies Darkness Devour and Poison, which is very annoying, but it also has a stacking attack buff. You can see it on the, it's the 4th buff it has at the moment. And every time you hit the snake, the buff increases by 1 stack. So now it's at 2. Now let's say it has hit it with his ultimate, her ultimate, it's at 3. When that stacking attack buff gets to 6, the snake will transform or evolve into a giant snake, which does way more damage, and all of its attacks always crit. Now this is the reason we've brought Seiya along with us. She's one of the best light nukers in the game right now, especially if you're able to get her to 6 purple stars. It's her job to hopefully deal with this snake. But now Electra just got taken out because of Darkness Devour. Seiya has the debuff now. Karen was able to cleanse it though, which is great. Almost got the snake down to half health, but it is at 4 stacks on that attack buff. And a reminder, if you guys aren't aware, Leafa has been brought along in this dungeon because Leafa gets a 100% attack buff in this dungeon. It's one of the special parts of this dungeon. Rue in this dungeon increases all of your heroes' recovery rate by 100%. So it doubles any healing done to any of your units. If we were able to bring Surdik along, Surdik would decrease the cooldowns of all of our skills by 1. Every single hero gets all of their cooldowns lowered by 1. And one of the reasons, a shout out to Ramu, who we're not bringing along with us in this dungeon, although Ramu would do a great job, is because we actually get a 200%, we get a 200% attack debuff if you bring Ramu into this dungeon. So you absolutely cannot bring Ramu into this dungeon to beat Sid. The snake has evolved. Our units are under heavy fire. There's 2 8k crits. Every one of that snake's attacks are critting, and it has a 6 stacked attack buff on top of it. But hopefully, yes, with 12,000 damage, Seiya is able to take the snake out. Now we'll just burn down the left spider because it's the lowest, and then defend for a handful of turns to get all of our skills back off cooldown and be ready for the final stage. Alright, we got 4 turns left on Leafa's skill 3. Seiya's looking good. At this point, we're probably not... We don't even really need Seiya's skill 3 in the final room, but that multi-strike from Seiya is going to force us in here. So, Fading Wind in the Fog boss, Sid, appears. He looks all kind, dandy, and friendly, and then all of a sudden, no! I can't see the light. Now, in this final stage, going to try to take down Boss Sid here. This first stage, after Sid has appeared, he appears as cute Sid, and the darkness devours him. And now you have Boss Sid, who has 1 buff on him that is literally, he cannot be debuffed by anything. So you just gotta tank and spank this guy. Watch out for his AoE attack, because it has the ability to apply Darkness Devour to every single one of your heroes. Obviously, if your hero has Darkness Devour on it, just defend, because if you attack or counterattack or use any of your skills, you lose 50% of your HP. Down to 96k. Everybody's looking pretty stable. Oh, a nice multi-attack from Leafa. Bring us to the 50s. Really, the goal here is just to go into the next stage with all of our cooldowns and everybody in good health. And of course, with all of our heroes. I guess that kind of goes along with good health. Not dead. Now, once we're able to get through, counterattacks after that are terrifying. It's like, please no. It would be so much better if none of our units counterattacked for this dungeon. Leafa has Darkness Devours. She can't attack. Oh, Karen was able to cleanse it. We're good. Now we just have to decide, do we want to move on to the next stage right now, or do we want to defend? Let's do it. Okay, so the darkness has left Sid. Sid actually starts helping us now. He will use his normal support skills, such as healing and reducing cooldowns. I'll help you, Sid says. He removed a debuff from Electra for us. I think? No, that was Karen. I'm always confused. You can never truly tell what Sid's done. But one of the hardest parts of this dungeon right here, if you didn't notice, Leafa just had a 5-turn stun on her. A 5-turn stun. If you don't have somebody who can cleanse that, you are in extreme trouble. But we just got 2 huge crits. Saya crit and Leafa crit. We got Dark Sid down to under half HP. That's huge. We can just keep everybody healthy now. This boss hasn't even really had an opportunity to really ramp things up. He will continue to spawn copies of himself until there's 5 people on the field, or 5 people in this wave, and they all do incredible amounts of damage to us. Leafa gets a multi-strike crit. We've already gotten this Dark Sid down to about 1/4 left. This looks like it could finally be another win for us. Everybody's extremely healthy. All it really takes, though, is one really bad AoE attack that puts Devouring Darkness on everybody. You get a couple bad counterattacks, and you got members of your team dropping out of nowhere. Go ahead and use Rue's heal. Keep Saya nice and healthy. One of our biggest damage dealers here. No crit coming from Leafa. We got Darkness Devours on Karen. Saya coming in with 15k. So close. We're at like one. It looks like 1/8 almost now. Like just barely alive. Make sure we scan all our units for Darkness Devours. We'll have to defend on Karen. Leafa still has the debuff. One misplay where you attack with a unit that has that debuff and cause it to suicide will cost you this run every single time. Rue can go ahead and heal herself up with her skill 1. Do a little bit of poke damage. We are so close. Leafa finally able to attack. Do we use skill 1 here? Yup. Going in. 14k. No crit, though. Saya, please! Oh! I don't know if every time we let our opponent get through or cycle through all of their skills, it's terrifying. They all have the ability to do the AoE skill that applies Darkness Devours. And then each time your unit can potentially counterattack. And there it is! Thank you. Now it's just Sid left in the middle. And it's done. Thank you. Now Sid, it looks like Sid might actually finish himself off there too. Whew. And that'll do it. And we pulled a Sid. We pulled a Sid. Cleared the dungeon with all 5 units up. It was a 3-star victory. And we managed to pull Sid.
Alright, we managed to take Sid down twice. Honestly, you guys would be surprised. I think that was 2 wins in about 9 attempts. It may have been 9. Yeah, it was probably 9 attempts and 2 wins. But still, it's ever so much more worth it because Sid himself is one of the top tier supports in the game. He ranks right in there with Rue, Karen, Ramu, I'm totally missing one. Rue, Karen, Ramu, and Demos. Sid is right in there. Those are your 5 best supports in the game. So him as a unit, as just a usable character himself, is so good. But I know when you get him, it's always gonna be a decision. Fifth or sixth purple star on one of my SSRs now, or keep him as a support unit to use on his own. But I feel like that's kind of a privileged decision to have to make. I mean, if I have a Sid, I'll be more than happy. I'm definitely keeping my first one though. But I hope that kind of brings you guys a little bit closer to being able to beat Sid yourself. Just at least kind of seeing all the mechanics, understanding what you have to do to beat each stage. Watching out for the big giant snake that always crits you. Knowing that, I mean, the first couple attempts that Peppy did at clearing this dungeon, he wasn't just focusing the Dark Sid at the end that had the original Dark Sid. He was spreading his damage over, just trying to keep the overall Sid population down. When really you need to pour all of your damage into that original Dark Sid, clear or beat him, and then the dungeon's over. But yeah, no, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun making this and even just watching. Seriously, check Peppy live on Twitch. Check him out live on Twitch. He clears these 4-star Advent dungeons daily, or at least keeps trying till he can't stand trying anymore. Because it's that hard. Even with basically maxed units and the correct ones, he's upgraded his team to actually using Surdic now, and he still often fails this run. But thanks for checking us out, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. You can also be in some of these videos in the chat above my head if you catch us live at twitch.tv/MasKScarin. You can check out my Facebook and my Twitter in the description down below to figure out when we're going live. Always know when new content's coming out. But smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And stay classy.